Hi, my name is Nicole. Welcome to my channel, Travel to Money. In this video, I'm going to give you the information you need to know for renting cars while visiting Europe. First, I'll share the basics of things you need to know, and then I'll tell you about some hard lessons I've learned so that you can avoid having those same experiences. There is a lot of world to explore, and for some of it, you may need a car, so let's get you ready to drive. If you are new here, I have created this channel to help you learn about how to travel, adventure, and have fun on the road to financial independence. I have traveled the world, I own a couple of houses in Spain, and I'm on a creative journey to financial independence. I believe the road to financial freedom can and should be fun. I hope you'll subscribe and join me on this journey no matter where you are starting from. In my last video about Italy, which I'll put right up here, I mentioned that one of the biggest mistakes I made taking off for that world travel adventure was not getting my international driving permit before I left the US. Now they offer a service where you can mail your application if you are already overseas, and it will be mailed to you in 5 to 7 weeks. That's not for everyone, but at least it's an option if you won't be in the US for a while. Okay, so let's cover the details of an international driving permit. Don't worry, it's super easy. And if you're not from the US, they likely have these in your country too, but the process may be slightly different. So first of all, this has nothing to do with learning how to drive in another country. All this permit does is it translates your US or other country license into 10 different languages. It's a little booklet and they literally handwrite your name and basic information to legitimize that it's yours and write an expiration date on it. It's only $20 and it is supposed to be good for 1 year. You can go to a AAA office and literally walk out with your international driving permit just 15 minutes later. There is an application form. You can download it and fill it out in advance or just fill out the application at the AAA office. You will also need 2 passport photos, but they can take them for you at the AAA office for a fee. The only other thing you'll need to bring with you is your driver's license, and that's it. Super simple. Now let me tell you about my experience using my IDP. When I got mine the next year in 2018, I always traveled with it, but when I rented a car, I was never asked for it. Then in 2019, I went back to one of the car rental places that I've frequented in Spain to pick up a new rental, and I left my IDP at my house an hour away in Spain. They would not let me pick up the car without it and said that the rules around that had changed. I have no idea what countries require you to have it in order to pick up a car, but just to be on the safe side, always take it with you. Okay, my next tip is about driving stick shift. The United States of America, Canada, and Australia are countries in the world where automatic vehicles have taken over. Everywhere else I've visited, manual transmissions are the main form of vehicle transportation. And if you don't know how to drive a stick shift, it could cost you. My first car was a 1993 Jeep Wrangler with no power steering, so I learned how to drive on a difficult manual transmission vehicle, which made me very prepared for any other stick shift. I love driving stick, and I'd always recommend learning. However, if you don't plan on learning to drive stick, just make sure that you look at the transportation type when booking a car. Speaking of booking cars, there's a link in the description where you can check out the site I use for all my rental car bookings. This is the same site I use to book a 2-week rental for a total of $25 in Spain. It's insane. When I book, I don't always select the cheapest option, but we'll have a look at the reviews. If there is a better rated car company that is just a couple of dollars more, that can really be worth it. I also tend to book through a third-party site instead of booking directly with the car rental company. The advantage is that they usually include a collision damage waiver known as the CDW for free. This means that in case of an accident, they cover any damage to the exterior of the car. It does not include damage to the tires, windows, or interior. I don't ever personally add additional insurance. I'm fine with the risk of having to pay for certain things. For example, my window was broken into in Spain and it cost me around $300 that I had to pay the car rental company. But $300 is often what it would cost me just to cover one rental with additional insurance. So if every once in a while I have to come out of pocket to cover a little damage, it still saves me so much money in the long run. Each person has their own level of risk aversion. I am not someone who operates in fear of a worst case scenario. That's just not the way I live. But if you need to have insurance that covers you for every little thing, just get out your wallet. I think a better option if you travel frequently could be to have an account, and every time you don't pay for insurance, instead pay it to your own account that can be like a car rental emergency fund. I'm no pro, but I'd bet you'd end up with a hefty check to give yourself a few years later. You may also find that your car insurance company covers you for rentals or that your credit card offers types of coverages as well. Another good option could be checking with your car insurance company if you are going to be driving overseas for an extended period. I have used USAA auto insurance for a long time. They don't cover me for my US based insurance when I am driving overseas, but they do offer car insurance for a select list of countries, including Spain. It might be worth it to get a quote rather than dealing with car rental companies who are going to charge you a whole lot of money. Alrighty, now let's talk about some lessons I've learned. The worst travel experiences I've had have typically involved car rental companies. I would say about 80 to 90% of the time I have a generally positive or at least neutral experience. However, this is one area where I have become very cautious and basically have no trust going into the situation, which is rare for me. I'm a pretty trusting person. But around at least 10% of the time, I've been scammed or just completely screwed. One time, I even got my hand slapped by a car rental company manager after he ripped my phone out of my hands in what was one of the most escalated arguments I've ever had in a public situation in my life. People can be crazy, and you know what's not very appreciated around the world? Women who have a voice and aren't afraid to use it. I'll get back to that story in a minute. All right, so lesson number one, if you are going to book through a third-party site, or even if it's just an online booking through a car rental company, try to do it at least 24 hours in advance. There is a delay between when you place a car rental reservation and when the local office actually receives it. I'll give you two examples. When I was in Montenegro, at the very last minute, I decided to rent a car. I found a great deal and booked it through a third-party site. I went over to the office for the car about 30 minutes later, and they didn't have any cars available and had not even received the booking. He said there was no way they could fulfill the order. Then, just recently, I was in Spain and needed a last-minute rental because I had missed my flight. Online, it said that the price was one thing and it was more expensive at the counter, but if I booked it online, I'd have to wait 2 hours before the local office would receive and process the booking. It's annoying, but last-minute car rentals can really leave you paying more or waiting for quite some time. Another thing I've learned is that when booking, you might want to try out different times of the day. Sometimes the savings can be crazy. When I stay in Spain for long periods of time and am renting a car, I will usually break it up into different rentals that last 2 to 3 weeks at a time. I have saved hundreds of dollars by comparing different days and times. The next thing I would strongly recommend is that you personally fully inspect the car and fill out the form before you sign off on the inspection. Some places will have someone to do this for you or ask you to sign before you've even seen the car. Please don't do that. Now, most of the time it's probably fine, but it is not worth the craziness on the occasions when someone is trying to take advantage of you. Remember the guy who slapped my hand away? Well, that was at a car rental location on the island of Rhodes in Greece. The car they gave us literally had over 100 dents or marks all over it. They had a guy inspect the car and mark off a lot of things, but basically the whole car was damaged. Before we drove off, we took a video of the whole car. The manager kept saying how important it was that we pay for the extra insurance and warning us that we should get it. And I am 100% convinced that the reason is that they literally charge every guest for damage. They charge the insurance companies or they charge the guest, and then they never fix the damage to the cars. They tried to charge us for 3 different dents on the car that were already there. When we tried to show them the video footage proving that the damage was already there when we picked up the car, they just kept rudely saying that they don't accept photos or videos. So I pulled out my phone and started recording them, saying I was going to report them, and that's when the manager came running around the counter, yelling at me, slamming his palm on the glass door of the building and saying that they don't allow video recording, and he was going to call the police. He then grabbed my phone out of my hand, and when I reached to grab it, he slapped my hand away. But my pride was bigger than my fear, and I was not going to pay a cent for the damage on that car. There was more to the story, but I ended up deleting the video to appease him, or at least he thought it was deleted. I was able to recover it later from the trash, and I'll play it at the end of this video. He ended up tearing up my contract and giving me a hug after he finally looked at my photos, and we went along our merry way. One other time, my friend was driving a rental car we had in Portugal. It was in the passenger seat, and I began to feel the heat on my foot. There was an exposed wire under the dash that burned through my shoe. Do you think the car rental company did anything about it? Nope. I think if something like that happened again, I'd be more inclined to demand at least a new pair of shoes. The last piece of advice I have is to make sure you read the contract in full before you sign it. I know it's a pain, but I'm telling you this from experience. If you watched my recent video about my worst trip to Spain, you may remember that a woman at Firefly in Valencia completely lied to me and added several insurances to my contract that I never asked for, lied to my face, and ended up costing me hundreds of dollars in time. I'll never rent from them again. All in all, dealing with car rentals is one of my least favorite things about traveling, but hopefully you can take from the lessons I've learned and make your experience a great one. Let me know if you have any other tips or ideas, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to join me every day where travel and adventure build financial freedom. I can't wait to see where your dreams will take you.
Go or delete. Delete.